Hello, I'm glad you're here. This is Jenna from McGuire. So several weeks ago, I went live sharing some fun ways to add shine to your cards using metallic inks. I wanted to share a replay of that video. This is a shortened replay, and also show you the completed cards that I finished up after the live was over. Please keep in mind that this isn't my normally edited video, but rather just pieces of that longer replay. If you'd rather watch the full replay, which has a lot more information, I will link to that up here in the top right and in my description below. But in this video, I will show the shortened replay of a card, and then I'll pop in sharing the completed card that I did afterwards. I use some great metallic and interference inks in this video, which some are back in stock. They're really hard to get. I'll have links for that in my description below. But keep in mind, these can be done with other metallic pigment inks. Let's get started. And this is the Waffle Flower Postage die. I think it comes with some other dies too. And what's really neat is Nina from Waffle Flower has come out with many stencil sets that work with this die. So one die, and there are many different stencil options and stamp options. And I really appreciate that because you get more bang for your buck. So if you invest in this die, there's lots of different things you can use with it. If you go to my website and search on Postage dies, you'll see lots of these examples come up. Well, now she has two new things that work with this, and one of them is amazing. Just stick with me. I'm going to have to show it to you after we get started here. I'm using, so this is the original Postage die from Waffle Flower. She has different sizes, but this is the one that's for A2 cards. All right, so this is Mike, it's called Spooktacular, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Spooktacular stencil set. I've already die cut white cardstock using that same old Waffle Flower Postage die that I've used many times, and this works with it. So all I'm doing here is putting black ink over the openings. I just wanted to kind of make it look like an uneven night sky. I am going to leave this on. I'm going to leave that stencil on. I could take it off and clean it, but who wants to clean, right? I think it's available in this size and a smaller size. I think you really only need the smaller size, but this is one of my favorite ways to add a little bit of white splatter. So this is the background. I wanted to kind of look like a night sky. So I just added just a bit of water to it, and I'm just mixing up on my glass work surface. So I'm just putting this on. Now, if you use more water, you will probably get bigger little dots in your background. If you use more water, it might be a little more sheer. You could put some pigment powder in here if you want it to be sparkly, but I just want tiny little white specks. And there's always the argument, are they specks or splatter or spatter? So I'm just gonna call them specks because, you know, then we don't have to argue. All right, look at that. So now look at the background has that night sky look to it. So over this, I'm gonna do a few different things. I think I'll do some green and some orange. You could definitely keep this simple and just do the orange over the whole thing. But, you know, I really wanted to mix those colors together. Now, when you're using dye inks for something like this, I don't think you need to take a big effort to get a blended look because it will absorb and kind of dry on its own. So you'll be fine. Now, I wanted to have some shine on here. So I'm adding shine in a few different ways. First of all, let me just wipe this stencil off here. I'm going to make my moon a gold. Now, this is your reminder that if you have metallic inks, to use them over stencils. I find that metallic inks actually work better over stencils than when you stamp with them. You get a more vibrant look if you use a metallic ink over stencils than you would if you stamped with a metallic ink. Now the metallic ink that I'm using today is a set of 3 limited edition from Lisa Horton Crafts. There's gold, silver, and copper in the set. And I'll be using the gold and the silver today. I did a video, a live, showing more of these. These are not her interference inks. These are just metallic pigment inks. All right, over this, I'll do the silver. Another thing you can do is say you want this, like this moth body to be silver. You could use clear embossing ink over the stencil and then add silver embossing powder, and that would give you beautiful shine. I think we often forget that we have, we can use embossing powders over our stencils. Just use your embossing ink over the stencil and then add whatever kind of embossing powder you want. All right, now for the eyes and the mouth of the ghosts, instead of using black ink, I'm just tracing it in with a black Sharpie. With little openings like this is an excellent way to cheat and save some time. And then over the mushroom tops, I'm going to go with the orange. So I've done everything here, so I can remove that stencil and check out that shine on the cauldron and on the bat. So there you can see that on the bat one that the gold moon and the silver probably should heat set again, but I'm trying to save a little time here. So this stencil will give us some shading and some of the other detail colors. So now we'll do the bottom of our candy corn. Now another thing you can do, I'm going to keep this one whole piece, and I'm going to show you a magic product after it that was designed to go with this. But you can also, after you're done, just take your scissors and cut along the dots, and you'll have individual postage stamps, which I've shown in videos before. But today I'm just going to leave them as is, as a whole piece. This gives a little bit of shading to our ghosts and to our skeleton here. Then I have the wings of my moth and the cauldron, and that's it. Again, you could have done these all the same color, but any opportunity I have to add more color to layering stencils, I'm going to take. I'm going to put some gold on the moth details, and on this one I'm going to just do dark gray. I try to change up the kind of brushes I use in videos because there are a lot of great brushes out there, and everybody's, there's something for everybody. These that I'm using here are Altenew micro brushes, but if you want any kind of small brush, I recommend the Altenew micro brushes or the Waffle Flower brushes that have the brush on both ends. Unfortunately, I am redoing my room and I don't know where they are right now. I put all of my other blending brushes, like my Gina K and some others, in a box, and I don't know where they are. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Look at that. Isn't that fun? And see how I added gold shine to the moth? And you got the bit of shine and the specks in the background, which I think are just so much fun. Now, I did one of these off screen because I was playing around with it. I couldn't wait. So let me show you what I did to the one that I have here. So there's a lot of details on here. On the ghosts, I added black little baubles, little pearls, like black glossy pearls for the eyes. I have those linked below, and I did those for the eyes on the moth too. And then I added gold baubles onto the moth's wings. And I did a white gel pen dots on the mushroom. Sometimes those little details just make a big difference. And then I added like some shiny stars to the steam, like the potion coming out of the cauldron. I don't know. So, and you can see that shine that we have. So that is the Halloween postage. So that's the Spooktacular. To go with this postage die idea, which I think is brilliant, there is the Postage Collage Blocks die. So this goes with the postage die. You could use it together or separately. And what's nice is it gives you some options. So if you don't want to have the postage look, watch this. You can just cut with the Postage Collage Blocks die and layer it over it, and now it just has kind of a window look or a, just a framed look. So it allows you to get more from your stencils. And another thing that's great about this, it also comes with these smaller dies in there. Another thing that's great about this is it cuts out these center pieces, right? And these work really well with the postage die. So you could glue that onto the postage die. So say you have some fun pattern papers or backgrounds that you made. You can cut with this so you get all of these little pieces, and then you can just glue them all into place. And so that gives you a different look than using the stencils. So that will allow you to use your postage dies with other products that you may have. So those you would just pop in place. Isn't that fun? So the postage die here, this postage die that I used for the background has been out for a long time. It's linked in my description. But now new is the Postage Collage blocks die. So you can see they line up with each other. So what you can do is cut this. I cut 2 or 3 together and glued it together for dimension. And you could do it like this or like this. Isn't that fun? So you could use, if postage isn't your thing, you can use the block separate. The reason this is what really won me over. I thought these products were cute, but I really wanted to show you this Postage Collage blocks die because I am a big fan of when companies like come out with additional products to make the products they've, in their collection kind of get more use from them. So I'm a big fan of that. So I think for this card, I will go ahead and put some adhesive on the back of this. This will go through the little holes, but that's okay. I can wipe up the mess. So you could leave it postage like that, or put it on like that. So there's the 2 different looks that you can get. Now for a sentiment on this one, you'll see there are lots of sentiments today. I'm using something from Hero Arts. My friends at Hero Arts are friends with Waffle Flower, so I love the idea of combining. I'm a big fan of combining different companies' products. So this is part of that big card kit. I have it linked in the description. You get much more in it, but I really liked the Happy Halloween sentiment in here, and then there's a coordinating die that cuts it out nicely. And I just thought it fit nicely right there. So I went ahead and stamped that on white cardstock and use the coordinating die to cut it out. And I think I'm going to put it like, that. Yeah. No, move it over a bit. There we go. So it just kind of floats there. All right, so there you go. And then there's one last thing I wanted to do with this. This is the spider web texture die. This is one of those that also caught my attention. I'm going to use it a few times today. Here are the cards that I finished off screen. The first one is the postage style, and I put it onto a white note card that's 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and also a piece of orange cardstock behind it. I love that orange showing through the little holes. You can also see the fun shine that we have on this. And here is the other card. This one has that block die over it, so it gives it a framed kind of feel to it that's different than the postage. And I added this onto a larger card base. All right, let's go to our next card. On this one, we do a fun metallic sky and some floating ghosts. Okay, so this is the next card. We're going to do this fun, shiny, kind of galaxy night sky background, and then make these little vellum ghosts, and this guy dances. So the ghosts I thought were super cute, and I instantly thought it'd be fun to make them out of vellum. So I have some tips for, can you put it back, for using vellum, because these are created from vellum, so they're a little see-through. I thought that'd be good for ghosts. But isn't that fun? And this little guy, he dances. And that sky, oh, it's so much fun. Let's do the sky first. The black is, so if you want to write it down, 4 1/4 by 6 3/4. And then the note card will be 4 1/2 by 7. So that is an unusual size, right? I wanted it to fit in a 5 by 7 envelope. So this will fit in a 5 by 7 envelope. I could have made it 5 inches wide, but I wanted more of a narrow look to it. So in the end, this card will be 7 inches tall by 4 1/2 wide. Now, I will be using, for this background, I will be using Lisa Horton Interference inks. All right, so what I'm doing here is I have a Tim Holtz ink blending tool. You could use the regular size or this tiny. I don't know, I I've been really liking the tiny size lately. It's great for stencils. And I am using interference ink. Now, I have done a live using interference ink, and I did a video too. I linked to that live in the description below, so you can check it out if you want. What is really neat about interference inks, these are from Lisa Horton. It's a special kind of ink. These are very different because it has a dye and a pigment ink in it. So it looks different if you do it on white ink or white cardstock or on dark cardstock. So this particular one here, Mermaid Lagoon, when you put it on dark cardstock, it's still wet, it comes out purple. But if I were to blend with this on white cardstock, it comes out blue. Okay, so on white cardstock, it looks blue. On black cardstock, it looks purple. Super fun. These are great metallic shiny. This will even intensify as it dries. Now here is Summer Garden. Now Summer Garden is an interference ink that's green on white cardstock, but it becomes blue on the darker cardstock. Now you could do this on any kind of dark color cardstock. I am choosing to use black because that's where I find it the most intense results. These, I don't really stamp much with these. Same with the metallic inks I showed you earlier. I tend to instead use these for blending like I'm doing here, or over a stencil, which you'll see me do more of later. For the next color, I thought I'd show you these because I've been getting a lot of questions about the new Hero Arts Reactive Glitz. These kind of have a similar property, but I find that most of the colors, I think they only have 5 of them, most of them, I think 4 of the 5, give you like a gold look on black, but a color on white. So if you use this here, you get a bright pink. I mean, look at how bright that is. And it also gives a little bit of that gold interference. So when this dries, let me heat set it so you can see. You can see there's a little bit of gold interference to it. And you can see these have that little bit of interference shine. So you see a little bit of that kind of extra shine on white, but you really see it on black, especially when that dries. So this one, remember, is the bright pink on the white cardstock, but it's going to give more of a gold look. All right, so let me heat set this real quick. You can see here, there's some gold, there's some blue, and there's some purple. And I could have made that more intense by putting more ink down. I just wanted kind of a cloudy look. So I have my Lisa Horton. This is just her regular pigment ink in the Silver Shine. This is part of that limited edition set with the gold that I used earlier and the copper. So you could do this with other silver pigment ink pads. You could do this with a white pigment ink. You could do this with some silver acrylic paint. Just add a tiny bit of water and then you can just flick that on. Okay, so now look at that. I have silver sparkly dots in the background. So it gives you kind of this galaxy look. Isn't that fun? And that's what I did here. Very easy to do. It doesn't take long at all. This is the Waffle Flower Boo Word Dies. Now the moon and the stars from a different set, but you know I've used lots of theirs in the past. But this Boo, I love that it's nice and bold, and it would work with any of the cards we're doing today. So I cut the shadow from white and the word Boo itself from that black Tim Holtz cardstock. Let me show you what I have here. I die cut 2 of each ghost from vellum because I want to make sure that it's not too thin. You could do just 1 and see how it shows through more, but I like to layer up the vellum so it shows that it's see-through, but it's not as see-through. Does that make sense? This is a heavyweight vellum from Simon Says Stamp. I really like theirs, but there's lots of great vellums out there. I wanted to show you how I put his face together. I've already assembled these, but I saved one to do with you. All right, so I'm taking a piece of clear Scotch tape and I'm putting it on the back side of my vellum die cut right behind the eyes. So now there is adhesive in those little openings. I used the same die and I cut it from black for the eyes and for the mouth. So now I'm just popping those eyes and mouth into the openings of the vellum and it lands right onto the tape behind it. I am putting something on each of them. So let's finish him up. I'm putting a little jack-o'-lantern onto my ghost. So I'll put this on this other ghost and watch this. It fits right in the hands. Look at that. It just fits right in there. Then I will glue this one onto the other, and that'll make them thicker. But I want to hide that glue, so I'm putting it behind the jack-o'-lantern. So see how the glue is right behind the jack-o'-lantern, and I can glue it on top and just line it up. So now we have a vellum ghost. Now another thing you can do, and I think it's worth doing, is I'm going to cut the front vellum. I could have done this before I glued it together, but I didn't think of it. I'm going to kind of cut the bottom, so the bottom of the front vellum kind of waves a bit differently. And it gives kind of a layered look. See how it gives that layered look? There you go, you can see it there. Isn't that fun? Now let's add this guy first. This guy I'm adding with an action wobbler. Now these have been out for a long time. They used to only be available in a giant size, but in the last few years they've been available in this mini size, and they're great for adding a little kind of dancing movement onto your die cuts. So I'm going to use one of these, and I'm putting it on the back of this ghost right behind the jack-o'-lantern so that it's hidden, so you don't see it. All right. So see, it flattens. Can you see that it flattens to go in an envelope, and then it has that spring action. So I put that spring behind the jack-o'-lantern so it'll look like our ghost is kind of floating and dancing. I love mini action wobblers too. They're affordable. I just bought a bunch in bulk, and I use them a lot. Lila uses them a lot too. So I'm going to press that down. So watch, he just kind of shakes and dances there, and he pops up, but he flattens too, and then he pops up. I thought that was cute for a ghost. Now the others, I decided to not do the movement. Just, you could, but I thought it'd be easier if I didn't. So I'm putting glue on the back of this vellum behind the bow, and I'm going to glue him just flat onto the card right here at the bottom. This guy is going to just get put up here with a foam squares. So this one's glued directly on the background. This one has foam adhesive, and this guy dances. I love it. Isn't that fun?
So here are those two completed cards. They're very similar. I used an action wobbler on both of them. You can see the background skies are a bit different. I just used different interference inks and kind of applied the ink in different ways. On this one, I did like splotches of ink area. On the other, I did kind of bands of ink. I also added little star embellishments to both. And now if you don't have the interference inks, a couple other products you could use for this background would be metallic rub-ons. That's a product from long ago. Or you could apply areas of Versamark ink or clear embossing ink and then add pigment powders such as Perfect Pearls to get that metallic galaxy sky. All right, the next cards, we have lots of movement with these two little spiders that move, and I also show you how to do a simple background with metallic ink.
All right, so I have Potion cardstock here from Brutus Monroe, and I die cut 2 circles, and then I did the spider web. Isn't that fun? So I have the Lisa Horton metallic silver ink, and I have my Tim Holtz mini blending tool, or this is the tiny, I guess they call it. And I'm just lightly applying this over the background. Now you could go heavy-handed and it blends beautifully. I'm going light-handed and uneven. I want this silver to be kind of uneven over the background just to kind of change up the look. It'll look kind of messy at first, but as with a lot of inking techniques, both as they dry and as you finish off your card, it will look more complete. So what I'm doing here is just putting a little bit heavier around the edges, but uneven, because I think uneven is fun with this. The silver pigment ink, you could use any silver pigment ink. This is the Lisa Horton. And then I'm going kind of light-handed and uneven in the center. And it just gives, watch, when you tilt it, isn't that fun? It gives just that bit of shine. You could do it heavy-handed if you want, but I don't want to cover up all of that purple. And by putting ink lightly over it, it makes that spider web pattern stand out even more. What I plan to do, and the reason those little holes are there, is because I plan to put these two little spiders and so they dance. You could use the action wobblers, but I'm showing you another technique. In case you don't have the action wobblers, this is something you could do with basic supplies. So in the end, my spiders will end up there. That's why I chose to do small circle die cuts right there. You just want to make sure that your circle die is small enough so that it's covered by your little spiders or whatever you want to have move. You could do this with the ghost too. Next, you need a circle die. And I recommend, a circle die that's about twice the size, roughly. That's bigger than this circle die you use to cut your holes. So I use this small one to cut the holes, and this one I'll use to create 2 die cuts. And those can be made from whatever color cardstock you want because they won't be shown. Next, you need some foam tape. I'm using round foam tape. I like having this in my stash for techniques like this. However, you can also use squares. You could also use these and it would still work. It still would work. You're going to put one at the center of each of those circles. Another thing you can do is if you have a button, a small button, you could glue a small button there. But if you have little foam squares or circles, that's perfect for this. Another thing is if you don't have anything small, you can actually take your scissors. I've done this before and kind of just cut a rough circle out of one of the bigger ones or from a roll of tape. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. So I put a foam circle right at the center of each of those circles. All right, so these are ready. Next, now this is optional, but I'm going to do it because I think it'd be fun. I think my spiders should hang on some string. So this is DMC Diamond? I don't know how to say things. Where's Christina when I need her? It's white iridescent thread. I use this for stitching a lot, but any white thread would work here. Any white thread or string, anything would work. This just has a little bit of sparkle to it. I have it linked in my description, the one that I use. All right, this is going to be attached to the back of my spiders. Trust me, this will be worth it. So I'm going to flip my little spiders over. I have my Scotch tape here, and I'm just taping the end of one of the strings on the back of one spider. Sound effects help. So I tape that on the back, make sure it's taped well. And then another on the back of the other spider. Doesn't matter what this looks like, nobody's going to see the back. So I'm going to tape this down. I'm getting shaky. All right, there we go. So now our 2 spiders have string coming out the top. Can you see that string? So there's string coming off the top. Now, to add these onto here, this is really fun. Watch. You take the release paper off of the foam on this circle, and I'm placing this behind so the foam is peeking out. It's not glued, it's just peeking out. So this is just placed behind it, no glue. So the exposed adhesive, can you see, focus? The exposed adhesive is this little bit on the foam tape, all right? I'm gonna take my spider, the big spider, the string's coming out the top, and I'm gonna just place him onto that adhesive, okay? So he can move in there. He can wiggle, he can dance. Right, so there is a foam circle there. Watch, I'm placing it behind. So this white circle is not glued to the purple background. But that foam circle is sticking out of that hole, and I'll take my other spider and place him on there. So now I have these 2 spiders that can freely dance and move around. I'm using foam tape on the back of this. Waffle Flower, I've shown these in videos. I think they're fantastic. If you're placing an order to get that free gift, this is something good you can include. She has these foam strip sheets, and there is a thinner. See, this one's thin, and there's a thicker. See the difference in the thickness? And what's cool about these is there are narrow, long strips, narrow, shorter strips, and even narrow, shorter strips. And these are the right length to go along the edge of a note card. Then there's a bit wider too. And there's the thinner version and the thicker version. I'm using the thicker today. I'm going to take this string and I'm going to kind of give it a little loopy loop so it's loose. It's like that. See how I got a loopy? And then I'll tuck the end onto that foam tape back there and cut the excess off. I could have done this before I removed all the release paper, but I didn't think about it. So that the end of this foam tape is up here, tacked to the back. Now this one over here, my fingers are all onto the sticky. I'm gonna put this kind of, spin it around and do that, and tuck that over. I wanted some loopies in it. I didn't want that string to be super tight or it won't want to move, because remember they're attached to the spiders. Now this goes on to a note card from that ghost set that I used earlier, the spooky ghosts. There's a bat die, and I just die cut some from black cardstock, and I'm just kind of scattering them in the background. So these are from Waffle Flower. She has a lot of these. I don't use them often. I really should. They're pre-printed sentiment strips. You can actually, I believe you can foil these too. But what I like is that it's a quick way to add a sentiment, so I don't have to mess with white heat embossing on black. So this is ready to go and add on there. But I do want to put some dimension behind it. So I'll use foam tape. This I'll put right there. These are stars. They're called Oh My Stars, and they're from Trinity Stamps. I use these a lot in videos because of this amount of sparkle you get.
So here are the two completed cards. This one doesn't have any ink on the background, but I thought I'd finish it up. It was my practice card. And here is the one where I put the silver ink on top. Now you can see that these spiders will move. They don't wiggle as much as like an action wobbler, but they definitely move around, especially as you take it out of the envelope. That movement will be very obvious. If you want it to move around even more, you could use more foam tape around the back panel of the card, and that would give a little more movement. But I think this is perfect as is, and I love that string on top that looks like a web. This would be fun to do with balloons also. Let's move on to our last set of cards. On this one, I show you how well pigment and specialty inks work over stencils. You definitely got to try it.
All right, this next one I'm using the Sweet Ghosts layering stencils. I thought this was really fun too. So that's what I'm using here. I'm starting with stencil number 1, and it's designed to fit perfectly on an A2 card panel. Go with that. Thank you for saying you like the long legs. I know that this will work just fine. This is the Mermaid Lagoon. I used this one before, and it's going to give me like a blue, because I'm putting it on top of purple ink. It's going to give me like a bluish purple tint, and I'm kind of doing it uneven over the background just to get some variation. So this is, again, the Mermaid Lagoon. On white cardstock, it'll be a pool color. On black cardstock, it'll be purple. And this is kind of in between, right? It's a medium color I'm putting this on. I'm putting over a purple ink. So it's going to get like a bluish purple color. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's going to make my background be shiny. All right, so let's remove that first stencil. Oh, it's gorgeous. I wish you could see the shine. Can you see that shine? It's like a bluish purple in different areas because the purple ink I put down first wasn't even. You notice how in some areas it was heavier than others. That made the interference look a little different in different areas. It's a little bluer in some areas and purple in others, but you can see that interference shine. I wish you could see it. So I'm going to put this back down. So that was stencil number 1. Let's move on to stencil number 2. And this one, I might change up things, do a few different things because, you know, why not? So I'm putting this one, you could do them, this whole thing orange. In fact, I'll show you what the whole thing orange looks like. But I thought for this one, I would kind of mix things up a little bit. So there's orange. All right, so here we go. I'm going to do some green here. Now I'm going to be getting into some tight spots here because there are little openings for the eyeballs, or for the cheeks. So if you wanted to do everything the same, you could. But what I do is I just kind of mask off different areas if you want to do selective. So I'm doing like a dark green. This is the green reactive from Hero Arts. So this will have like a gold shine to it when it dries. And then the last part of this stencil will be the cheeks. All right. Oh, I love the interference look of these. All right. There we go. Black ink here. If you don't want to use a black ink and a tool with your black ink, you could instead just fill this in with a black Sharpie like I did on my first card. I white heat embossed Hey Beautiful from this Waffle Flower Postage Collage Spectacular, and it's on black glossy cardstock. Take a foam strip here. I'm just going to use one of these. I'll actually use two of them. I'm going to put this along that diagonal. I'm going to take this and put it at a diagonal right along that cut edge. Flip it over and then cut off the excess. So this is one I did off screen. This one I only did one color over each stencil. I did the purple over stencil 1, I did orange over stencil 2, and black over stencil 3. So you get less colors, but look how cute it is.
So you can see the two different looks I got here. This is the one I did off screen. I used one of the purple interference inks on the background, and I did splatter some of that white gouache like I did earlier in this video on the background, which I think is a really fun way to add some speckles. And then you can see I also added little black gems for the eyes. Now the other one is the one I did live, and I added more colors to it using that green interference and a little bit of pink. And by the way, in the live video, I mentioned that these cards were inspired by Gina K Designs, so I wanted to make sure it was here also. So consider this video a reminder to use your specialty inks to create backgrounds and over stencils. They're not meant just for stamping. In fact, a lot of times specialty inks behave better when not stamping, when used over a stencil or on a background instead. If you're interested in catching the full live replay, I'll have it linked here, along with a related video. Everything I used is linked below in the YouTube description. I thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.